So, hey, you guys, I wanted to talk to you about how to go about revising your narrative essay. So, there's actually a few things that you can do, and I just wanted to let you know that the professors who are going to look at this, I believe, are going to use this rubric. So, this is definitely available right here. Along with this podcast, I'll give you a link to it, and then also I'll explain to you what you're going to look for in your narrative essay. Because it's a narrative essay, because it's a story that you are telling, it's got to have some figurative language in there and some really cool language moves. And so I'll point those out in Ben Carson's essay, and then I'll go through the rubric. So, anyways, Ben Carson has a solid, clear, focused thesis. I believe in my mother. Just clear, solid, and focused. He is aware of his audience. So his mother was a domestic. The choice he could have made was say a maid. He didn't say maid. He said domestic. Here's other vocabulary that he chose to use for his audience. He said that his mother was illiterate. His choice was he could have said she couldn't read, but she said she was. He said she was illiterate. There's another one here. Ruse. He could have said, so his choice was he could have used different vocabulary that dummied down his audience and may have said it was fake or it was a lie, but he didn't say that. The tone was a little more respectable. It was a little more respectful. So, anyways, that's one thing. Detroit Public Library, in your essay, you should have specifics. Check marks and highlights is listing, and it's a visual. We're seeing his mother make check marks, highlight his essays, his writing. Third grade education, again, third grade education. That was a specific. Between the covers of those books, that's a metaphor. I mean, that's just cool figurative language. Over here, anybody, we got some parallelism. I could go anywhere, do anything, be anybody. That's a listing of similarly structured sentence parts. So go ahead. I mean, it has sort of a chant, it has sort of a rhythm. Here's some more rhythm. I wanted the fancy clothes. I wanted to hang out with the guys. We got some repetition going on there. We got some rhythm. A student to a B student to a C student. Again, repetition. I was cool. So this is an example of diversified sentence length, and this is I don't think I ever mentioned this to you, but this is a good tool to use as well. So the sentence begins here. I was getting high on the fives, and I was getting the high fives and the low fives and the pats on the back. And not only is that visual, but it's also kind of long, especially compared to this one, which says I was cool. So diversifying those sentence lengths is a good thing to do too. One night. So he is putting things in chronological order. So make sure your stories are in chronological order. And he doesn't go through like his whole life story. He pulls out 3 stories. 1, when he was a kid, he went to the library. 2, he was a student that was messing around. 3, he had a prostate cancer. And so he's just pulling like grade school, high school, and when he was an adult. So he's not going through his whole life story. What else did I want to point out? He has dialogue. Dialogue is awesome. I just love dialogue. So he has dialogue in there. That's a narrative technique. Allocating money. I got through allocating money. Again, that's being aware of your audience, speaking to your audience. He has an academic, general audience. The vocab isn't really high up there, but it's not dummied down, that's for sure. Down here, we have diversified sentences. Again, she never worried. That's three words. And then we have a fairly long sentence right after. So he's mixing it up a little bit. He also restates his thesis at the end. So the main 3 concepts I want you to think about is a thesis. Not only is it at the beginning, but it's restated at the end. The other thing I want you to think about are the 3 stories. It doesn't have to be 3. It could be 2. It could be 1. But it's those stories all illustrate why you believe what you do. It's in, again, chronological order, but it has a ton of narrative techniques. We have repetition, we have listing, we have details and specifics, we have metaphors. You know what? I didn't even look in there for alliteration or consonants or assonance or even similes. I mean, I'm sure there is a ton of that in there, but I had a ton going already. So anyways, now going back to your rubric. So this is what the professors are going to be looking at. The writer has a clear, challenging purpose. That is your thesis. The writer consistently engages the interest of college level readers. That means that your examples are going to be appealing to that audience. And again, details, examples, interesting discussion. So, and then the relevance, how would it make sure it pertains, the stories pertain to your thesis. Credible sources, personal experience is definitely a credible source. Organization, the writer composes paragraphs that are purposefully organized. That means that those paragraphs have to do with your thesis. They constantly support that thesis. They have a ton of detail in there that just isn't vague generalizations. I mean, you get down to the nitty gritty. The writer leads readers through the paragraphs and content. That means there's some transitions in there. Writer composes introductions and conclusions, and that means topic sentences and concluding sentences. Style, the writer uses sentences that are clear, logical, and easily understood. We don't want baby sentences. You've got to keep in mind your audience. We have this college audience who wants to be engaged, who want to read what you have to say, but you got to make it interesting for them. As you know, with any writer, if it's boring, or any reader, if it's boring, we're going to just toss it aside. I mean, seriously. So make it engaging to them, make it relevant, make it so that they care, and they might find just a little bit that they can relate to you and your content, so that they're like, oh, I have a stake in this too. What did they do? How did they react? How did this pertain to them? And so that I can relate to it as well. Language, a variety of language and sentence structures. I just got done saying that. So anyways, the writer, and then mechanics means grammar, punctuation, format, spelling, typos. That is the stuff. So anyways, this is nothing new. I have been pounding this stuff into your head from day one. So if you want to know what to do for your narrative essay, well, then there you go.